Hi, this is Mike Parnell. I'm here to help you get a quick digesting of what's in the section on slings. It includes chain slings, wire rope slings, synthetic slings, and there'll be another little chapter within the crane and rigging procedure manual on rigging hardware, and then on lifting devices, spreader bars, lifting beams, and so on. But just to get a quick understanding of what the sling section really covers. The general information really in total is just talking primarily about the folks, the people, and then what to do with the rigging. One, the people following the manual, following the training that they've received to accomplish certain tasks based on assignment, basic rigging or advanced rigging, and then to help ensure that we're going to honor and respect the removal criteria, that we need to kick bad rigging out, and then make sure it's inspected by competent folks. And then we want to make sure that everybody's trained to do the work or tasks that they've been asked to do. So in the general section, it really is about the people, competency, inspection, and then and just a little bit about the gear. In operating practices, it's really about sling selection. And if you sort of take it in total, the second item right here, type of load and hitch type and environment to be used in. And so there are, it's right load, right rigging. We might not use synthetic rigging for concrete. We might opt to go to wire rope or chain slings to help lift some rough, abrasive surfaces that we really can't get good protection in there for. So make sure it's inspected, right application, staying within the rate capacity, whether it's single leg, multiple leg, and making sure the fittings and hardware aren't compromised based on the rigging method. And then watching out for the people side. I mean, that is, don't get our hands and feet between the rigging, the slings being tensioned, and the load and getting crushed and getting compromised. I mean, it can happen in a hurry. So one will be really careful, especially bringing new folks on and on the crew. So we want to watch out for their, they just don't know. Sometimes they don't really fully understand the hazards. You can talk them right through it and teach it out of a book, but let's get them out on the job site and say this is a good place to be and a bad place to be. And so making sure you're using taglines and keeping our hands and feet away from pinch points, crush points as load comes off the ground, load lands on the ground, and staying away from rigging gear that's under tension whenever possible. Don't get underneath the load, and make sure that we're using the right rigging, especially for man baskets and things like that. So cautions to personnel is in this section. The next section really is effects of environment, and it's really about hot temperatures, cold temperatures, and heat, and then it gets down to also UV. So those are the things, environmental things that can affect low end, high end, and constant exposure to slings that can cause degradation or loss of strength, certainly at any of those extreme temperature ranges. Let's take a look then at rigging practices. And with all of us that have been through or need to go through a good rigging program, these are just quick reminders about the things to do and not to do with the rigging. Making sure we're not shortening rigging with beyond the manufacturer's specific methods, like chain slings have grab hooks on them. So shortening those up using the appropriate hooks, installing sling protection as necessary, avoiding shock loading, don't laying the load right on the sling. So they're practices that we've learned hopefully along the way in our basic rigger, intermediate rigging. And this is about 20 items here to help remind us good things and not so good things that we want to be careful of while we're rigging loads up, making sure that we're respecting D to D ratios on diameter of object, diameter of wire rope sling, because we can compromise that to where we lose a lot of strength. So we've got about 20 reminders in here that deal with rigging practices. And then we have a initial inspection on receipt of the rigging. That's detailed out. And then frequent inspection, which is the beginning of each shift or day that the rigging is used. And then we have a periodic inspection, which is the annual or every 12-month or less, depending on how frequent the use. So, and I won't go through the listing, but we have alloy chain slings that are covered with their removal criteria. And we've got wire rope slings. Then we have synthetic web slings and synthetic round slings covered for removal criteria. And then we have all of the periodic, and there are 4 different small sections that deal with the additional information. Might involve tools and measuring and calipering on the annual that we might not be doing in the frequent. So that kind of wraps up on the slings presentation. It's how do we pick them? What environment can they operate in? How should we take care of them? What practices should we exercise with them? And then what inspections should we perform on them? So we're getting ready to go to the next chapter section. And but if you need anything about slings, dive into this manual section first. Check with your supervisor if you need additional information. And but let's make sure we use our rigging and always rig it right. Okay.